another episode of Breaking into Tech. I'm really excited to have Rob here today to talk about his journey with Sabio. So, welcome to the show. We're so excited you're here. Can you
Thanks,
can you
Amanda.
tell can you tell us a little bit about your background and what led you to Sabio?
Yeah, so I grew up in Southern California in San Bernardino County, and I ended up serving about 4 years in the military. I was a cavalry scout, and for those who don't know what that is, basically, it's a combination between security operations and reconnaissance operations. Um, After I got out, I ended up using the GI Bill to go to school, and um, I ended up going to UOP to get my bachelor's, and then to University of Redlands for an MBA. And what kind of how I ended up learning about Sabio was actually I went to a marketing analytics class, and I thought, wow, this is really interesting. I want to try to get into this field after I graduate. And I ended up talking to the professor there, Mark Hensley, and he told me, well, you got to learn a little bit about coding. Um, and he ended up um, having a couple meetings with me after that, and he told me about some boot camps to learn coding. Because of course I was like, what's that? I had never coded before, ever, and it sounded like a lot of math. And he said it's actually not that much work to learn. Well, it is a lot of work, but it's not difficult to get into because there's these boot camps now. And so I ended up um, researching them, and that's how I ended up finding out about Sabio.
Yeah, coding is kind of like its own unique language, but once you learn all the tools or most of the tools, it can help you understand like what you need to do, and so that makes a lot of sense. Like it sounds really technical and a little bit scary, but then when you get into it, it's a lot of, you know, you see similar things and patterns, and it's like reading another language. That's the best way I can describe it.
Yeah, it's a lot of little things. Um, and when you put all those like little things together, then you're able to like build an app or build some application. And all of these skills, one of the things that has been most surprising to me in my journey is that all of these are just skills, and anything that's a skill can be continuously improved upon through practice and repetition.
Yeah, for sure. So, how did you learn about you knew about boot camps and you started doing research and figuring out like what are these boot camps? How did you stumble across Sabio's program?
So I went online and I just like was spent time Googling veteran friendly boot camps because I was interested in using some of the VA benefits for the boot camps. And Sabio popped up as one of them. I think I looked at a couple other ones. I can't remember the names though now. Um, and then like looked up a bunch of different review sites. There's one called Course Report that's really good, and I just looked at all the reviews. And but really what helped me make my decision was I went to an info session with Sabio and met Liliana. She is amazing, and she walked all of us through at the info session through um, like step by step, like how it would work from the moment you start the boot camp to getting a job. And one of the things that when I was because I was on the fence because I kind of was worried that it would be something similar to, I don't know if people remember ITT Tech, like back in the day, something happened and they lost their accreditation, and basically anyone who went there um, didn't go there, and it didn't even matter. So I was worried that it was going to be like one of those things, um, but they're so confident in their program that they offered to defer the payment. So like you take out a loan and then you don't have to pay until like you get a job, which was pretty mind blowing. Um, you must like be pretty confident in your program to like have not, people not pay for so long. Um, and that was what ended up basically selling me on that.
So you had a little bit of like apprehension, like what if I put all this money into it and my time and effort, and then at the end of it, something happens and then I can't get a job or they lose their accreditation. But the fact that they, you know,
Oh yeah.
essentially like, yeah, go ahead.
Oh yeah, like definitely. I was terrified. Um, because I went to college and I'm like, man, I should be able to get a job. But at the time, there were no jobs. Really, the economy wasn't in great shape when I graduated, and I had no experience also in what I had graduated in. So that was another blocker on that. But yeah, I was scared that because 8 grand, I can't remember how much exactly it was, but it was around like 8 or 10 grand. And I mean, that's kind of a lot of money at that point in my life. And to, it was a pretty big risk too to like not work for like 3 months. Um, and then like not work for another, well, I had a part time job after that. Um, but still, it was like, I had to really like control my finances until I had got a job, and it was a big risk because I was putting all my eggs in this basket, and it ended up working out for me really well.
Yeah. Yeah, that can be really scary, and I think that's important to talk about that it is a big time commitment, it's a big money commitment, so it's like there's a lot of things that go into it, and the fact that Liliana made you feel so comfortable, like, meeting her, she's amazing, she is I yeah, she's just so amazing, and she's such a great resource for so many different things, and was she leading the info session when you went through it?
Yeah, yeah, she ran the whole thing, and uh, I love Liliana and Gregorio. They work so hard, and they are so passionate about what they do to get people like into tech from everywhere. And they don't care where you are, where you're from. They just want to you to work hard and make it happen.
Yeah, and what year was it when you went through their program?
Oh shoot. I think it was 2020. So it was during the pandemic.
It was during So, were you virtual for that whole time?
Yeah, I was completely virtual the whole time, and I took their full-time program.
Yeah, I just saw that they're offering a part-time program that allows people it takes a little bit longer, but it's not as full like, full-time is, like, more than full-time, it's like overtime full-time, and so
Yeah,
yeah.
it's intense, like 12 hours a day, 6 days a week, and um, even after the boot camp, it's like a full-time job to look for a job, um, or at least like that's how I and that's what I feel like is it worked the best for me because if I had sort of it's one of those things where like you've built so much momentum like when you're in the boot camp, you've gained all this knowledge and you don't want to wait to start um like you don't want to take a break and then like you forget some stuff when you're interviewing. You want to just keep going until you break into the industry because then you can start like you can kind of relax a little bit and then start gaining experience.
Yeah, for sure. And you came in with like no coding experience, so I'm sure you learned a lot. But what was like one of the big takeaways from the boot camp training?
um the biggest takeaway for me was like I had to shift my perspective in working on problems, and I'll explain a little bit about what I mean by this is like, because typically in a normal job, like take a coffee shop, for example, they typically like train you for a job. This is how you wipe the counters, this is how you make coffee. And then they say, hey, do this job, and you do it over and over again, and then you just get better at it, because you know everything up front. Well, with this job, it's reverse. Typically, you don't know how to do what you're trying to do. And um, the way a Sabio is set up is they have it set up and it's like a reverse classroom. So they give you a task that you don't know how to do right off the bat, and then you work on it and you research and you try to unblock yourself, and then you have like the teachers there to ask questions, and like, but they don't give you the answer. They give you like just enough to get past this one little block. And that was tough for me because I mean the military, they train you for everything. They have training manuals on mopping and cleaning bathrooms. Like literally everything has a manual to it, and like they'll show you how to do it, and then you just do that. This, it's like the heavy lifting is on us, and that's a good thing because in the industry, your manager typically doesn't know what you're working on, like directly and intimately. Like my manager has no knowledge of what, like maybe a little bit because they understand like how the feature works, but actually like deep in the code, they don't know how it works. So that's why uh, it's entrusted on you to like learn these technologies and and complete the task and like give your expert opinion on like this is maybe how it should work, or we should go this way or whatnot. Like, that's an oversimplification of the process, by the way, but
No, no, I
generally
mean,
that's, yeah.
yeah, well, it makes I that's what I think's interesting about Sabio's program is that it's not just like you hear coding boot camp and you think like, "Oh, I'm gonna learn to code," but you also learn all these skills that prepare you to be an employee at a company. And so it's not just like the technical aspect, it's like the whole package of like making you a good employee for a company by teaching you all these skills that you need to know. So when you come in, you have all this baseline knowledge of not just coding, but also, how to look at different problems, how to do different things that are done to update your supervisor, those sorts of things. I think that's really important.
100%. And like I think Gregorio, even he actually worked at Microsoft at some point, and I can see like some of the work culture right now at, because I work at Microsoft right now, and I can see the like culture he built into the boot camp, because it is exactly like the job. Like when you go through the boot camp, you have a daily stand up,
Mhm.
where you give your status, what you're going to do next, blockers, and um, you have demos that you have to present to the product owners, and you're accountable for a piece of the project. So, like a feature or something. And these are all things that you do in the job.
Yeah, and did you learn a lot of that when you were going through your cohort? I know each cohort does a project. What was your guys' project and how did that help you as you went through the program?
Yes. So I love talking about my project because I'm really proud of it. Um, I so we worked on an app that helped aimed at helping underinsured or uninsured people, um, because typically uh, doctors, like they'll give um, cheaper prices to people who pay cash when they go to doctor to get medical attention. Um, so
you still hear me? I think I lost you. Oh, there you are. Technical difficulties.
Sorry about that. I don't know what happened there. Yeah.
No
Gee,
problem.
things don't always work.
Yay for live video. No worries. We'll just keep going. Um, I lost my train of thought because do you remember oh, you were talking about your cohort and your project.
Yeah, yeah, the project. So I don't know what the last thing everyone heard, so I'll just kind of reset. So basically, the project was aimed at helping underinsured or uninsured people get cheaper medical services. And we get the idea was you have providers that get signed up for the app, and then they post their services, post their prices, and then you have people who don't have insurance or maybe have lower coverage, and they can go on the app and pay cash prices, which is typically cheaper than what the doctor will charge the insurance company.
That sounds really great. So you were passionate about it, and then also, did you learn any like tools that you feel that you use in your job today or in your past jobs as a software
Oh
engineer?
yeah, definitely. Like that project was, um, I think, because working on like exercises, like I don't know, just like an algorithm or something. Like actually building something was really helpful in cementing a lot of the concepts that I learned at Sabio. Um, but we used React for the user interface, and then we used .NET to build an API that talked to a database, and then pulled the data down to, and we also built the database too. Everything that's all the data is stored in a SQL server, and it was a really cool experience to like see the end to end, like all the way from like when you're interacting with the UI, like where the data goes through the API and goes into the database. And it's like it's really not magical. Like there's really a reason like for everything, and it's cool.
It seems like magic on the outside, but when you're in there in the data, you're
It
like, "Oh,
does.
it's logical, it makes sense." That's funny. You're like, "It's not magic, it really makes sense." Did did you face any challenges while going through the boot camp program?
Oh yeah. Basically constantly feeling like I was behind. Um, I always would have this feeling creep up on me, like I don't know enough to get a job yet. And will I know enough at the end of the boot camp? Because you only have 3 months. You know, the boot camp, once it's over, it's over. And if you didn't learn everything you needed to learn, then that's partially on you because you didn't. You may or may not have put in the effort, and so I was had that constant fear in me that I was going to get to the end and like not know anything, which is not true really because um, the things that you're working on, like because the thing that was in the back of my mind was like, what's the threshold, the bare minimum, to get a job? I didn't care where it was or really what it was doing, just like to get that first job to break into the industry. And so I had no concept of what like the bare minimum was. And the truth is like the bar actually is pretty low for an entry level person. It really is. Um, but you don't know that in the boot camp. And even me saying that, some people are going to hear that and they're still going to feel like that feeling throughout the boot camp because we all want a job and it's scary taking a risk like that. Um, but what helped me was to just take it one bite at a time, um, and not think about the whole like journey as a whole. And so only focusing like step by step. It really helped me like uh, focus in on what I needed to do and not let that fear overtake me.
Yeah, and when I talked to Danny last week, he was talking about how he's a planner and he was like ready to start sending out resumes like earlier in the process, or he got contacted by a company and Gregorio was like, "No, you got to follow the process. You got to wait till he's." Did you run into like that type of situation where you're like, "Well, shouldn't I be applying now?" Like I'm like cuz you're worried about getting a job and they're like, "Nope, you got to wait. You got to wait."
Yep, 100%. And um, it's tough like to wait because you feel like oh well I'm missing out on these opportunities. Like I had a couple like really cool opportunities that came my way, and but the truth was like I just wasn't like because you only have so much energy throughout the day to like focus, and like it's better spent focused building your skills in that time frame because you have access to all the instructors, because after the boot camp like you still have access to them but you're no longer priority because you're not in a cohort. And
Yeah.
so taking advantage of that priority access is really, really critical. And then after you get out, then you can start getting the wheels rolling. We're looking for a job.
Yeah, so when it was time to get ready to send out your applications and get ready to get a job, what was that process like?
So they had us. They we pulled together all our resumes, and everyone got advice on the resumes, like things to change and how to word things. And also, really cool is that you could see other people's resume and like get ideas on like how they're wording things or whatever, because you're all going through the same boot camp. So it's going to be generally the same wording. And there's also an internal jobs channel, which is the thing that I love, because uh, everyone posts jobs like alumni. Liliana's always in there posting opportunities. She is a hustler, man. She's always like out there making connections and bringing in opportunities, the funnel into that jobs channel. And that alone like makes Sabia incredibly valuable to just even be able to see that jobs channel. Um, there's also a an algorithm class that wasn't actually around when I went through. Um, but what I did instead was I reached out to like other alumni to do mock interviews, and that was incredibly helpful, um, because like like I said earlier, all of these things are just skills, and interviewing is no different. You can just interview over and over and over again, with someone of course who knows like the process and like kind of the questions that they're going to ask, or um, how to give like an algorithm interview. And if you do that over and over again, then you just get comfortable with that process and then you get better at it.
Yeah, which is so important because you're trying to get a job. And so if you're comfortable and you've practiced, it makes it easier to do well in the interview and to be able to land that job and get hired, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I saw on your LinkedIn profile before we started the interview that you didn't start at Microsoft and you worked at a few other places. So what was that experience of like working and then going to different companies?
So, my first job out of Sabio was at a company called Orthofix, and basically they're a medical device company that sells medical devices. And what I was working on was their sales app, where their salespeople would use this app to sell these medical devices to um, providers or other companies. And so that's what I did there, and that was a really uh, cool experience because like I got to work on a lot of different things because they didn't have very many developers. It was a really small team, and uh, it really like set me up to understand like what's like kind of the norm in a company on like how things work. Because in Sabio, like you kind of you get an experience of that, but like there's still in the back of your mind, like, is this really what it's like? And it actually is really what it's like. There's a stand up every day, and it's like the same. Um, and then, so that was my first company. And then I got into the Microsoft Leap program, um, and that was really cool. And because it was kind of, it wasn't a boot camp. Um, I know it's advertised as a boot camp sometimes, but like uh essentially the first month is going through like a bunch of LinkedIn videos, and like they have people that come in and teach you cool stuff. And then but the rest of the apprenticeship is working directly on a Microsoft team on a real product that could potentially ship, which is was amazing. It was a really cool experience. I met so many awesome people, and it really set me up because then that leads into you potentially have a an interview for a full-time position with Microsoft, and ended up going through that and getting hired. And now I work on the Windows Signature Experiences team, and basically we work in the area of File Explorer, and we're building cool new features for everybody. So I'm really excited about that. There's actually a bunch that eventually going to come out. I can't like talk specifics.
Right.
I'm excited about them.
And they're not magic, but they seem like magic. But you know how they work, right? Yeah. Well, I think that's really cool that you talked about the LEAP program and that it's more like an internship. Like it might be like classified as a boot camp, but it sounds like you need the tech skills of what you got from Sabio so that you can be successful in the internship program. So that sounds like a really cool program that Microsoft offers.
Yeah, it is. It's aimed at oh, sorry, go ahead. Were you going to say
No,
something?
go ahead. You're fine.
Um,
You're fine.
so it's aimed at helping like people who are don't come from the traditional path of going to school, getting a computer science degree, um, and it's helped aimed at helping those people get into tech, even if it's not at Microsoft.
Yeah. And and so you went to school and you got your MBA and you got your degree and then you went and kind of like made a turn and did Savio. But do you feel like your degree helped you in like your current career, or do you think that you could have just like skipped that and just went straight to Savio? I know you would have had to, you had to go on that journey to get there, but I just thought that would be an interesting question.
Yeah, absolutely. So I've had this asked to me before, like, because people think like, oh, well, you have a degree. That's why it was so easy. Well, the truth be told, like, my girlfriend also went through Sabio, and she actually didn't go to school at all and never coded before, and she got a job faster than me. Um, it's so she jokes about it all the time, and so it took her like 3 weeks, and it took me 3 months, and I do think it helps to a certain degree because like it'll get you the interview, but it won't get you the job because you'll still have to go through the behavioral and the technical interview, and they'll like know immediately if you don't know what you're talking about.
Right.
They don't care if you have a degree or if you have some amount of certificates. What they care about is what you actually know and what you can demonstrate. And that is something that you don't need to go to school for. You can just you don't even have to technically go to a boot camp. You can just go online and constantly practice these skills, and then you get better at them. But it helps going to a boot camp because you're around people who are also trying to do the same thing, and so you kind of like are able to scale your learning because you're learning from these other people and you're doing it so much.
Yeah, that's funny that she got a job quicker. But I've been doing a lot of research about like how sometimes having a degree can like be a hindrance because they'll see like you have a master's, so like you should get paid more and it's an entry level position. And oh, someone asked, what was your salary when you graduated from Sabio? You can be as
My first company,
yes.
it was 80,000.
Yeah, that's pretty good. I mean, that's what Sabio advertises that you'll get somewhere between like vet tech is accepted. You didn't use vet tech though. Had you used all your GI Bill benefits?
Yeah, so I used all my GI Bill benefits on college, and I plan to use vet tech, but it was a new programs, and the first week they basically ran out of funds like immediately. And so, and I had this decision I had to make, like, okay, because I started to ask myself, like, well, shoot, I have to pay for it. Like, do I
Right.
really want to do that? And I made the decision, like, you know what, I can't like let this stop me. And I went through their deferred loan program and
Yeah,
ended up just paying it off after I got a job.
yeah, and I did an interview with Megan Black, and I think it's episode 7, and she talked all about the vet tech benefits, and she does the info session, so, I'll go into the comments when we're done with the live so I can send you that information. I can't see your name, but I can see that you're there, so and it looks like you're on YouTube, so I'll go in and do that. And your last question we talked about at the beginning of the interview, and so I'll go in and answer it, and you can rewatch the video about you don't have to have any coding experience to start with Sabio, and all my guests have had limited to no experience. So you can check out all the lives for Breaking into Tech, and you can hear everybody's story and see how they went from little to no experience to being a software engineer. So, my last question is I saw also on your LinkedIn profile that you like to do stuff on the side. And so I was wondering if you had like an entrepreneur type spirit where you're thinking like maybe in like 5 or 10 years, I'll start my own tech company. Is that something you've ever considered?
Yes, it's something I think about often. It's so I have an idea book and I write down like a bunch of ideas that I have, because right now I'm not really in a place where like I don't have the capital. I don't have a group of people that because all businesses are that end up being successful are typically started with a group of people. Like it's hard to start something by yourself. And so in the meantime, while I'm looking for those things, I write down all the ideas that I have in this idea book. And so it is something that I've thought about because it's really easy to get started. I mean, you have a skill set where you can basically um, build things from a computer, and it's like all online. like typically in other industries, like have to um, like there's some barrier to the knowledge in like starting up a business in that sector. But with this industry, like you can just go online and Google like um, I can't think of anything off the top of my head, but everything is online. You can learn about anything. You can learn about Web3. You can learn about anything like cloud. They have videos online, like anything.
Yeah, I love that you have a little journal that you're writing down ideas so that like when the opportunity becomes available, you like already have your list of ideas and you never know. And I just thought it was interesting. I saw that on your LinkedIn profile and I was like, "Ooh, I feel like he's a inspiring entrepreneur." So I think that's really cool. So, do you have any advice for
Yeah,
someone who's
luck
considering
is.
joining? Go ahead.
I was gonna say luck is preparation that meets opportunity.
That sounds like a
Sorry, go
military quote.
ahead.
I said that sounds like a military quote. So my last question is, do you have any advice for someone who is considering starting Sabio's boot camp program?
um, I guess it depends on what stage they're in. So if they're just on the fence, like thinking about attending an info session, then I would say to just do it because there's no real like commitment or risk involved with that. If you're at the stage where you're trying to decide like whether to pull the trigger or not, then everyone's circumstances is different. Um, I would say like if it makes sense to for your life to, because it is like high risk, because there's always that risk like that it might not work out. Um, but from my when I was evaluating it for myself, I was thinking about these different things like job growth, the salaries, the potential to uh, add a skill set for like starting a business. Typically, like you, um, the best like businesses have like a group of people that have like complementing skill sets, and so I wanted to learn something that could help me do that. And so for me, that those are the things that I cared about. And then I asked myself, like, will this give me that? And as soon as I thought about that, then I just knew like this is something that I want to do. And if you're scared to like, if you know it's something you want to do, but you're just scared, like you just got to do it because um, you won't know the outcome until you actually do it. Because you can fail at anything. Like I totally could have failed, and then but I would have taken that feedback and then just went and did something else. Um, so I don't know if that's helpful. I think I just rambled for like 2 minutes, but yeah, if you end up going into Sabio, feel free to just send me a message, and I'm always happy to have like one-on-ones or um, I don't really answer LinkedIn messages that much because I get so many. Um, mostly from like recruiters. Um, but like if you have a question, feel free to message me on LinkedIn also, and eventually I'll probably see it.
Yeah. Yeah, and, the last question, the person on YouTube, I can't see their name, he or she asked how hard was it from a scale of 1 to 10, and they're in that scary stage right now, so they're like I think they're afraid of how much work it is and how like and it is scary, I like that you're acknowledging that.
Yeah. So I don't think that I can assign a number to it, and here's why: is because I don't really think like that. Like I feel like everyone has like all human beings have the ability to improve in any aspect. It's all like we all start like different places in different areas, but um, it's directly dependent on how much time you spend and how much concentrated effort you spend in these topics. So like for someone, because technically you can go through the boot camp and not learn anything. Like you can spend 12 hours a day, and if you're kind of like checked out, not really present with the work, or like frustrations taking over, and you just like go like, I don't know, do something else for like 6 hours and then come back and then you say, yeah, I worked, for 6 hours, but you didn't really, then you're not going to learn much. But if you're consistently, basically just doing exactly everything that Sabio says to do, if you like follow it to a T, to your best ability, like of course be gentle with yourself, like because it's easy to get overwhelmed, but like if you're following it, then you're gonna learn something, and the things that you learn there cast a huge net over the industry, because there's jobs in it because you learn React. That's a front end skill set. There's tons of front end jobs. You learn .NET. There's tons of APIs like that need to be built like from all over like the industry. So there's those jobs, and then there's also like full stack jobs, and like that's also an option. And then there's like database. You work on the database too. So there's those jobs. It's just like a really wide net. So I would say like I don't know if that helps assigning a difficulty, but like you can totally do it. Um, you can totally do it. It will take time, like a lot of time and a lot of concentrated effort.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's a great answer. I think that it's hard to assign a number, especially like for each person is different, but I've interviewed, I think I'm on interview 15, and so it's been really fun to hear different experiences from different graduates about what they've learned and how it's changed their life. So, thank you so much for your time. I
And
really
also
appreciate.
another,
Oh, go
well,
ahead.
hold on. Another thing I want to add real quick is like I just want to describe like the level of computer knowledge that I had before the boot camp. So what I basically what I knew how to do was, because I went to college, so I knew how to write papers and like surf the internet. But everything else, you know, that's it.
Yeah, and there's no prep courses required. They used to require courses, but now everything's all included in the boot camp. So they have resources on Sabio's website that you can look at. And thank you again for your time. I really appreciate it. And I'm glad that we were able to talk to you about your experience.
Me too. This was fun. Thanks, Amanda.